Hello. All right. I believe that I'm now live. I'm going to wait to make sure that one of my team members confirms that I am in fact live. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, and I'm hoping that since we got it out of the way before the webinar, there won't be any issues. But anyways, I am super excited. My name is Ada, and I'd like to welcome you and thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm really excited to get started on this very special workshop, Code Your Way to 1K. This workshop is our most popular workshop, and it is backed by popular demand. We actually haven't done it in, I think, like 5 months or so. So it's been a little while, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. So go ahead and share some slides that we have, but I will be here, and I will be your guide through this process. Okay, here we go. Got the slides. All right. So, you are here for one simple reason, and that is to learn how to make money while you learn tech skills, which is awesome and totally possible. So before I begin, I want to introduce myself, and I want to let you know that my name is Ada. You may be familiar with me because you've probably seen my face plastered all over the SkillCrush website, and I'm the founder and CEO of SkillCrush. So I'm really excited to be here and talking about this topic. I've personally had the pleasure of helping thousands of students make money while they're learning to code, and I can't wait to help you do the same. So I can't wait to help you make money, not just while you're learning here at SkillCrush, but after SkillCrush and, all the way. So throughout this webinar, I am going to be asking you to comment. So please do so in the Facebook comment feature right below this video. And I actually see that a couple of you guys have already been doing that, so that's super awesome. During the course of the webinar, I will be reading and responding to your comments and questions, and I'll also be taking a couple of Q&A breaks, so please, put all of the questions that you have in there, and I'm super excited, especially to see that we already have some juicy questions that I can't wait to answer. And I also just wanted to give a shout out to some people that I see are attending this webinar today. I'm really excited that you could be here. I see Solon is here, and I love these names, Dagmar. I hope I said that correctly, probably did not. Really excited that you guys could join us today. So I wanted to begin with having you all introduce yourselves to one another, because one of the most fun things about the SkillCrush community is getting to know other students and other people, like-minded people all over the world. So I would love for you to begin by answering the question, what brought you here today? Why are you interested in learning to code? Why is now the time? And what do you plan to do with your new tech skills? Like, why is it that you want to learn them? What do you hope to accomplish by learning tech skills? So add your comment in the comment section below the video, and let's see what is bringing everyone to us today. Cool, so you go ahead and do that, and in the meantime, I'm going to talk about what we're going to be learning in today's webinar. So what we're going to learn today is we're going to be talking about what coding and digital skills everyone who works in tech needs to have. I'm also going to be talking to you about where you can learn them. So we're going to talk about how to get those skills. We're going to talk about the secret that everyone in tech knows, and soon you will know the secret also. We're going to talk about the different stages of learning and what those look like as you transition into the technical fields. And we're going to talk about how much money you can make at each stage. And more interestingly, I think we're going to talk exactly about, what exactly are the types of projects that you can do, how do you find those projects, how much do you charge for them, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of good information to cover. I also want to make sure that you know that no one will leave this webinar empty-handed. So we're going to be sending you away with our detailed 50-plus page guide, which really goes much deeper into what skills you need to learn and what order you need to learn them in order to maximize your earning potential than I'm able to go into without making this a 5-hour webinar, which I might enjoy, but I worry that you guys would get bored. So, so I just wanted to let you know that you'll be getting an email with the link to download that guide right after this webinar is done, and I think you'll find that that'll be a really good sort of what do you say, partner to what we learn in this webinar. Okay, so I'd love to see if you guys have any comments. Yeah, I see Jenna. Jenna is here, and she says that I'm here because I've been learning to code for the past few months, and I want to freelance. That's awesome. Christian is here, and he is here because he wants a career and lifestyle change, which is awesome. That is really, really, we hear that a lot from students, so that's awesome. Kristen is here, and she's a photographer and has a graphic design degree, so she's looking to learn some sort of updated skills. That's awesome. I have a lot to say about that topic. Cool, great. So I'm so happy that you guys could all be here. Fantastic. All right, so you're in the right place. So to begin, I want to talk a little bit about why I created this webinar and why I'm so glad you're here. So you're in the right place if you ever felt like everyone you know is making a ton of money while you struggle to get by. I've definitely been there. It's a terrible feeling. Let's talk about some solutions. You are in the right place if you wish you could have a steady, reliable source of income, but you don't know if you have the right skills or experience. Very common also. I feel like those two things really go hand in hand, right? You are in the right place if you have a passion, but that passion is failing to make money. Or even if you just want some part-time work to fund your passion. So, you know, I live in New York City. I know so many people who are artists, you know, who work in theater and things like that. And, you know, they're doing such amazing, important work, but it's really hard to make ends meet. So you are in the right place if you're feeling stuck and frustrated because you know you're capable of doing more. This was me 100%. I was so frustrated by the work I was doing before I got into tech. It just felt like I was just doing boring administrative work that was not interesting, didn't keep my attention, and just felt like I was just so frustrated. So if you resonate with any of those issues, I would love to hear from you. The good news is that these are exactly the issues and concerns that I'm going to be showing you how to solve. There are only a few easy steps that you need to take to get paid to learn to code, and I'm going to be talking about those shortly. But first, I really want to address the sort of elephant in the room, which is why code? Why tech? Like, why is it that I'm telling you to code your way to 1K and not, you know, project manage your way or write your way or market your way to 1K? Why do I believe that the best thing that you can do for yourself and your current and to get out of your current situation is to get technical? So there are so many reasons, but I really want to focus on the top 3 reasons why we love technology and why I think this is such a good choice for people who are looking, you know, to make more money, be more fulfilled, and have more flexibility and control over their lifestyle. So the first reason is that salaries in tech are high paying. So the average American salary is $50,000, whereas web designers already on average make more than that, right? So the average salary in tech is higher than the average American salary. So web designers on average are making $61,000, web developers are making $76,000, WordPress PHP developers are making $85,000. And once you get into sort of more advanced and more specific skills like Ruby on Rails, they are on average making $110,000. And I will say too that, you know, these salaries can go up significantly depending on where you are located in the country. So often, you know, if you were to do average salaries in San Francisco or New York, you would see that they would go significantly up from there. Second of all, tech skills are in crazy demand. So it is estimated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics that right now there are over 700,000 high-paying jobs that are currently open in tech with no one to fill them. So we're not talking about, you know, 700,000 open jobs and 700,000 people who are applying for those jobs who just haven't gotten them yet. We're talking about 700,000 open jobs that are unfilled and have no one to fill them. So there is a huge demand for people who have technical skills. And what's even crazier is that despite all the coding programs that are cropping up all over the place, all the boot camps, all of the sort of momentum of getting students into computer science programs, this gap, this sort of gap in terms of supply of workers versus the demand is actually expected to grow. So by 2020, it's estimated that there will be 1.3 million open jobs. It's almost going to double in the next 3 years. And I know that this is a big concern for a lot of people who are maybe a little bit older and looking to make a career change, and they're thinking to themselves, like, there's so many people trying to do this, is like, that it's going to get so competitive. But the demand is just outpacing the supply, the growth of demand. So, if you have a concern about that, back that up. And the third reason why we love tech and why, we think it's such a great option for people is that there is a relatively quick turnaround, meaning you can start making money almost right away. So what's cool, obviously there's lots of great options in terms of if you want to, sort of have more career stability or make more money, you could go back to school and become a lawyer or a doctor or all of those things. But all of those things take years to do. And especially take years for you to start seeing a return on that investment. Whereas if you learn technical skills, especially if you start freelancing, you can start making money within a couple of short months. Granted, you're not going to be making like a full-time salary right away, but you can start to see a return on the investment of your time and money. All right, so with that in mind, let's talk exactly about what you need to do in order to take advantage of all of these things. So, I apologize. So one big caveat that I want to give before I dive into what skills you need to learn is I want to just sort of give you guys a little bit of a frame of reference. So here at Skill Crush, we focus on the web and web technologies. And the web is everything that you interact with through your web browser, meaning that it's all the stuff like, it's all of the, it's, when you go to google.com or the NewYorkTimes.com or anything like that. So the reason why we focus on the web is that the web is growing insanely fast. I mean, just think about how much time you spend on the web today versus 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. It's insane. And actually, in some ways that's not always the best thing, but it just goes to show like so much of what we do is moving. This morning I was listening to a news report that said Michael Kors is closing a bunch of their retail shops. And the reason for that is because we are not going to stores. Like, even if we go to stores, and maybe you can try stuff on, and then we go and buy it online for cheaper, right? So in short, as you all know, we all feel it, the web is growing insanely fast, and so much of what we do and so much of business and commerce is moving to the web. And that means that the demand for web developers and designers is huge, which in turn, and both because the demand is so huge and then also because of the nature of the technology that's used for the web, the barrier to entry for working as a web designer and web developer is relatively low. And I don't mean that it takes nothing, but for example, you don't need a degree to do it. And it really is about you just diving in and learning as you go, and building up your skill set. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk a little bit about what skills you need to know if you're going to work on the web. So specifically, I want to talk about the basic skills that everyone needs to know if they want to work on the web, which is what I encourage you to do. So the first thing that you need if you're going to be working as a technical worker on the web is you need to have a basic understanding of how design works on the web, especially user experience design. So recently I was talking to a friend of mine who has a graphic design MFA from Yale. And I was asking her about how she thinks about graphic design on print versus the web. And she was talking about how it's so different. And the reason why it's so different are two things. One is that the screen size is so different, right? Like, you could have someone on a desktop, you could have someone on a mobile phone or a tablet or a smartphone, or a phablet, right? There's just such variability. And the second thing she said is that it's interactive. And so as opposed to a print magazine where in general, someone's reading experience is linear, meaning they start at the beginning and you know, turn pages. On the web, it's not linear, right? Like you can click around and go from this page to that page and then go back. And so these are all things that really change how the web works in comparison to other more static mediums like print or television. So that's the first thing you really need to start to understand. Just conceptually begin to understand what makes the web a different type of medium and how that is going to influence and determine the design and development decisions you have to make. So second, you need to know HTML and CSS. So these are literally the only two skills you need in order to build a website. Granted, if this is all you use, your website is going to have some limitations to what it can do, although amazingly, as CSS develops, it can do more and more. But literally, these are the only things that you need. So as a bare minimum, if you want to dive in, learn HTML and CSS. Third, I really like to always tell people at this stage that they need to know about something called Git. And Git is a version control system, and it's used by almost everyone. I actually don't know how old it is, but it has grown in popularity enormously. And the reason why I bring this up is that Git is something that is used by, or I would say version control, and a type of version control called Git is something that is used by almost all developers, and it is going to be super important if you want to work professionally as a developer and work with other developers. So it's kind of one of those things where I think as a beginner, there's like secret things you have to know that nobody tells you, and I think this is one of them. And then the fourth thing is that eventually you're going to want to specialize. And specialization can take a lot of different forms. So for you, that may mean design, it may mean front-end development or back-end development, it may mean JavaScript development, mobile development, and you don't need to decide and figure that out right now. But eventually you will want to. And in particular, this is really how you start to increase your earning potential, is you begin to specialize and get better and better and take on bigger and bigger projects and bigger clients in your given area. So on that note, I wanted to really quickly just check the comments and see what you guys are all saying. Cool. So I see a lot of questions about how to demonstrate your skills to prospective employers. It's a really good question that I would love to tackle. Cool, I see that Heather is currently enrolled in the WordPress development blueprint. That's awesome. She said she's having a good time, so that's great. And then also, Heather, I see that you live in New York City and you feel like you're not earning enough to live comfortably, and I hear you. New York is crazy. I see that Robert says he's been in and out of tech for a while, but always enjoyed his coding classes. Very nice. Ooh, Melanie, I see that you're also currently enrolled in our front-end development course. Yes, and you see, and your experience is that when you apply for freelance sites, they have to have a portfolio site with examples before applying. So yes, that's definitely, I know there can be a challenge around you need experience to get experience. Oh, and Christian says she's a female. I apologize. Yes, it does look like it's spelled like a guy's name. Cool. Okay, awesome. Okay. So are you guys ready to dive in and talk about how you can do it? Let's do it. All right, so now that we have an understanding of these coding skills, and that you need to know HTML, CSS, and Git, and then you need to learn to specialize, then the question really is, how do you start making money while you learn? And here is the secret. I mean, the first secret is that it's totally possible to make money while you learn. And in fact, for most of your career, what you will end up finding is that you will get paid to learn new technical skills. And the reason for this is that Technology is constantly changing. That is the nature of the beast. That is the nature of working in the tech field, is coming to terms with and really embracing the fact that technology is always changing. And that means that we're literally, like, the entire industry and everyone who works in it, if they're doing a good job, is in a constant process of evolving what they're doing, understanding the implications of the new technical environment that they find themselves in on a daily basis, and learning to adapt to it. So I know that when you're just getting started, it can feel really intimidating to do that. And it can feel really like, I think you often sort of feel like, no, I can't possibly charge for this thing. I'm still learning it. But what you learn very quickly is that that is literally, that's the name of the game. That is what everyone is doing, all the way up the value chain, right? Or all the way up the management chain. Like, I'm the CEO of a tech startup and I'm still doing this. And granted, now I guess I pay myself to learn new things, but I also take for granted that I am paying my employees to learn new things all the time. So what we want to encourage you to do is to do something that we call the cycle of profit. And it works like this. You begin by picking a skill that you are going to start by learning. And for most of you, that will be either web design or HTML and CSS, or maybe you will be learning them at the same time. So the first thing you do is you learn a new skill. Then you take that new skill that you learned and you get paid to use it. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this very next step. But don't think that even if you just got started learning something that you can't get paid to use it, because there is such a wide range of things that people are looking for. Then once you've gotten paid to use your new skill, you take that money and you invest in learning the next skill. And then you just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And what you'll find is that each time you do this, each time you go through this cycle, you are going to, like, in step number 2, you're going to start making more and more money at each step, and then learning more and more advanced skills. So I can give you an example of how this worked for me. And then I'm going to talk both about some literal ideas and suggestions that I have for you in terms of how you can make this work for you. And then we're also going to talk a little bit more about other past Skillcrush students who have made this work for them. I also want to encourage you, if you have any questions, to please drop them in now, because I will be doing a big Q&A break right after this. So if you guys aren't familiar with my story is, like, I did this. I didn't know that I was doing this. I didn't know to call it the cycle of profit or really have a lot of insight. But basically what happened to me in 2009 was that, I had spent sort of the couple of years before that working in media and tech organizations. I was living in New York. I'd been out of college a couple of years, and I was totally frustrated trying to figure out, it's just all those big questions you're asking yourself in your 20s. You're like, what do I want out of life? What's meaningful to me? Like, how do I pay my rent? It's like all, it's existential and practical all in one big heap. And basically, I had been sitting around in these offices, and I was starting to learn about technology. I did not have a technology background in college, but I had started to work at companies that had development teams and meet some developers and designers and begin to understand what it was that they did on a daily basis. And I thought it was really, really interesting, but I was totally intimidated by it. And I remember, like, I think I counted it at one point. I think I spent something like 14 months sort of like researching, learning to code, like asking questions, kind of like peering over their shoulders as they were working. Like, I literally would sit there and be like, where is this code and what does it look like and how do you do it? And they even let me edit a little bit of code, but I really had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, so it was just this very, like, maybe you guys can relate to this. Like, I think that sometimes when you're interested in something new, but you're really, really intimidated by it, it's really easy to, like, kind of just like spend so much time kind of like researching it, but not really committing. And, and for a lot of what caused me to hesitate was like fear of the unknown. And I was afraid that it was going to be really hard and scary, and that, I think my biggest fear was just really simple, and it was that I wasn't going to be able to do it, that I would like discover that I just wasn't smart in that way, or couldn't figure it out. So then, lo and behold, it's 2008, late 2008, early 2009, and like everything was literally just falling apart in New York. It was like this experience of like of course, like buildings weren't literally crumbling, but it was like that. It was like these major companies were falling apart. There's all these layoffs. And I was at a media company, and they went through a round of layoffs, and I actually was spared. And the reason I was spared at the time was because they somehow had managed to, I was a photo editor, and they kind of classified me as a technical employee, even though I would argue I wasn't very technical. But nonetheless, I was spared. But I thought to myself, this is not a good place to work. Everyone's going to lose their job. I think the whole company might go under. I'm going to get another job. So I got a job as an associate producer at a digital agency, thinking that this would be a safer place to be. And that was very much in that context a non-technical role. My job was to email the clients and make sure that our project deadlines were met and stuff like that. So I started there in January of 2009. And I believe it was early March, I guess. I had been there 7 weeks, and they called me and about a third of my colleagues. It was a company of probably like 40 people. And they laid us off. And it was, it was literally one of those experiences where I was like, I think they laid off. I think I counted one developer, and I had known because he was on my team that he was on performance review already. So they just didn't want to keep him. And what I really learned that day was, when your business is technical, which I would argue more and more businesses are becoming, as a non-technical employee, you're in a very vulnerable position because you just are expendable in a way that technical employees are not. And thus, I was expended. And so I joke that, I spent the next day, I gave myself one day to go and sort of cry and drink beers in the park and sort of enjoy my newfound freedom of unemployment, and also lament the fact that I now had to figure out what the heck I was going to do. And then the next day, that was kind of the kick in the ass that I needed to get over my fear of learning to code and just be like, I'm going to make this work. I have to figure it out. And what I did basically was that at that time, it was really, it felt like a matter of survival, right? Like I had rent to pay and I had no way to pay it. And so, I just figured it out. And, the way I did it was I talked my way into my first client project, which I think I got paid $500 for. And then parlayed that into my next project, which I, sort of kept increasing my rates, and slowly but surely that, led to bigger freelance jobs and then full-time jobs. And then I actually created a business, and it really snowballed from there. But yeah, and it was not an easy process of learning to code, but I was shocked at how quickly and how much it paid off. So that is my story, and my experience. And that was really what then inspired me to build SkillCrush, because what I didn't have at the time was anyone to guide me through the process, or any sort of program. Like I learned by buying a book at Barnes & Noble and then banging my head against a wall, and then, in desperation, calling a friend of mine who happened to be a developer. So it was not a good experience of learning to code, but it was, and I will tell you, I had a lot of gaps in my education that I then had to fill later on. But it did work, and it did make me money, and it did allow me to survive and pay my rent and not have to move home and live with my parents. And then it led to a series of, career opportunities that were really completely, just much bigger than I would have if I had continued on the path that I was on. So I'm excited to see if you guys have put some questions and comments. I see a question from Shannon. I just want to take a couple of questions and then we'll do a bigger Q&A in a little while, which is, she says, first off, I love this webinar. I've tuned in multiple times and always feel invigorated afterwards. Well, thank you, Shannon. Second, any advice for someone who feels like they're beyond junior developer roles, but isn't sure how to validate what I know or improve to align with more senior developer positions? Yeah, I think unfortunately, it's hard to answer this question without knowing a little bit more information. In my experience, when we are looking for more senior people, we're looking for two things. One is skill level. So obviously we're gonna wanna see some advanced work samples. So bigger projects, more complicated code, that kind of thing. And the other thing we're gonna really wanna understand and see is management experience, but if not management experience, but also just like experience working on teams and working in context on bigger projects. So, there's definitely some things that you kind of take for granted about juniors that you expect that a senior developer is not going to do. So understanding, really, really being really solid on professional best practices. So testing, that kind of thing. These are all things that we'd be looking for. I hope that helps answer that question. I don't want to go too deep into it, but if you want to email me separately, I'm happy to talk about it in more. So somebody, I see that a couple people are asking, why shouldn't I just use all those free resources that are out there? So I think you should use free resources. Free resources are amazing. I think the challenge that some people have with free resources online is when you are starting out with something, you effectively have to create your own curriculum. And that can be very challenging. As somebody who effectively created her own curriculum to learn how to code, I can tell you that there was just like the volume of things I didn't know were just so large. And that's where, I think some of sort of like what we're trying to do with Skill Crush, like we design curriculum with experts who've been working in the field for dozens of years. And they are also experts at figuring out how to structure what you're learning, teach you the right things at the right moments, figure out what you need to learn, what you don't need to learn, all of those things, what order to learn them and how to do it in the quickest way possible. So I think that's really, that kind of support and structure and sort of quality guarantee is what you're getting out of a paid program. So I think that, if like time is not of the essence for you, or or if maybe this is like for your own projects, or I think it would be hard to cobble together free resources and then be in a position where you were really ready to walk into, for example, a full-time job on a development team. Because I think there's just certain things that are unlikely for you to find in free resources. I hope that's helpful, and I'm happy to answer more follow-up questions on that topic. Okay, so I want to take a little bit of time to talk, like literally, because I just want to make sure that you guys feel good that I've delivered on the promise of this webinar, which is how to code your way to 1K. I want to talk about how to code your way to 1K. And I actually wanted to show you the Code Your Way to 1K guide, because it is really where you're going to get the bulk of the information in terms of what to. All right, here we go. Here's the link. So what's cool about this guide is that it goes into a bunch of detail. So as I talked about, it's over 50 pages. And it really is going to go into a lot of detail about what you can do, what skills you need to have. So in the guide, we break it out into, I believe, I want to say 6 stages. Hold on, we'll find out. Truth be told in a second. Yes, okay, we have a stage 5. Do we have a stage 6? Yes, we do. Okay, fantastic. So what we do in the guide is we talk about these 6 different stages, what they look like, what you're learning at each stage, and specifically, I hope I'm not making anyone dizzy, what skills you're going to be learning, and then what you can offer, importantly. Because I think one of the things that's hard is when you're new to the field and you haven't worked in this context, obviously, how would you know what you can offer, right? So, so we really go into a lot of detail with that in the guide. So I wanted to give you guys some examples. So we have real job listings that you could apply for at that stage, plus real freelance opportunities, that kind of thing. So I broke this out into a couple of different ways to think about it. So if you wanted to make $1,000, there's a couple of different ways to do this. And honestly, you should probably do a mix of all of them, right? So you could do $20, $50 projects. What is an example of a $50 project that is appropriate for someone who's just getting started? So you could do a business card design. In fact, I need my business cards designed. If you guys want to email me, I would happily pay someone $50 to give me a business card design. You could edit some photos. So maybe a website needs some photos, and often, photos, maybe the ratio is wrong, or there's some parts of it they want you to edit out. These are things that you could do. And the skills that you need to do those things, you need to know Adobe Photoshop. For business card design, you would need to know Adobe InDesign and sort of understand the implications of that. You could test and perform a quality assurance on a website. So that would be like, for example, for like a company like SkillCrush could hire you and pay you $50 to run through a website, maybe on mobile, and say, does everything work on the mobile website? What things are broken? Find the issues and alert me to them. You could do a usability test. I literally got an email in my inbox this morning, and it was actually offering me $150 to do a usability test on a website and provide feedback. So, and as somebody who maybe is beginning to learn, you're going to have more insight than the average person. You can make a mood board. So maybe a couple of different mood boards. So perhaps someone is trying to decide, like, what kind of feeling do I want for my brand? You could create a mood board for them. Or you could do something like create a simple wireframe and prototype for, let's say, a mobile application or something like that. You could also do $10, $100 projects. So there's a lot of different things that you can do for $100. That's very reasonable for you to charge $100 for. One example would be to create an About Me style single page website design. So sort of think about this like a business card that goes on the web. I think this is an awesome first project for you to do when you're learning just how to code and design websites. For a long, long time, my website was effectively this, and it was built using just HTML and CSS. You can adapt an existing simple website for mobile. So let's say that someone has an About Me style web page, but it doesn't work on mobile. You could, you could charge them $100 for you to fix that. You could provide user flow analysis and strategy. So maybe you go through a website and you let them know, like, let's say they're an e-commerce website, and you say, hey, your user flow has 10 steps where it could have 5. Let me show you how to do that. You could design and implement an email template. So, even though like Constant Contact and MailChimp and all those services offer off-the-shelf email templates, often, they don't feel on brand for a company. So you could do both the design and development work necessary to make them look on brand. You could do 5 $200 projects. So for $200, you could do a fancier single page website. So maybe it's a single page website with some portfolio examples or a contact form. You would customize a WordPress blog. So I know that there's a lot of questions about why would you code a website, or why would someone hire you to code a website when there's stuff like Wix and Squarespace. So my answer to that is two-part. One is that a great skill that you can offer is to customize a WordPress, or I don't know how customizable Wix is, but I know that Squarespace, there's a lot of customization on Squarespace that actually requires code. So that is actually a service that you can get hired to do. I will also tell you, just to answer that question now, that my experience, like, yes, there is a market for people who want to do it themselves, but in my experience, even though they could maybe do it themselves on Squarespace, a lot of businesses don't want to because it's just not what they do. Like that's like their job is to run their business. It's not to build a website. And second of all, what happens is that often, although you can start with a Squarespace or a Wix, they are pretty limited. I know Squarespace is always adding features, so they're maybe less limited, but a lot of companies end up finding, especially if a big part of what they do is online. So it's important to understand there's companies where they just need an online presence to market. So an example of a company like that would be like a restaurant, right? They don't necessarily need to do a lot of stuff on their website. They just need to have their website up. It's sort of like a digital version of hanging a shingle out your window. For them, maybe a Squarespace can suffice, but for companies where they actually need to do a big portion of their business online, whether they're an e-commerce company or teaching classes online or any kind of thing like that, then it's not going to work for them. So they're going to need something more complex and more hand-coded. You could also adapt a single-page website to work on mobile. Depending on the amount of content on the website, this could easily cost $200, if not more. Or you could design a mobile application. Honestly, if you're going to do that, I would encourage you to charge more than $200. Those are just ideas of things that you're going to be absolutely capable of doing after a couple of weeks or a month or so of study. There will almost definitely be someone who is looking for a solution and would love to pay you a couple $100 to do it. To 500, actually I think I have $1,000 projects, yes. So second to last, you could do 2 $500 projects. So you could do a landing page design and code. A great example here would be a sales page. So a sales page is the thing that everyone wants their special Snowflake version of a sales page, and for good reason, because every sales page design is different and has different things that need to be highlighted. So you could do that, design and code it for $500, absolutely. You could do logo and branding design. Logos tend to, designers tend to charge more for logo because it's so valuable to the business. Like for example, our SkillCrush logo, like we use it everywhere. So it makes sense for us to spend a premium amount of money on the logo design. And in fact, $500 would be pretty low. 5,000 or more would not be unreasonable. A custom WordPress theme from scratch. Obviously, you would need to know how to code WordPress sites, but that's really, for companies that are using WordPress, although there is some ability to use WordPress.com or use out-of-the-box themes, what I see is that tends to really limit what you're able to do. And in reality, in order to really customize websites as most businesses want them to be customized, you need to know how to code WordPress themes from scratch. You could build and design an interactive marketing campaign. So maybe you could use some fancy animations and video, things like that. Those would all be projects that would merit at least $500 worth of income to execute against them. And then lastly, you could do a project for $1,000 or more. So you could build multiple sales and landing pages. You could customize a WordPress theme with an e-commerce integration, let's say. You could mobile optimize an existing custom WordPress theme. That would be a ton of work, and you should totally charge $1,000 more for that. You could build a simple web application, such as a company's minimum viable product from scratch. So like maybe if you're learning Ruby on Rails, you could build a simple website or web application for somebody. Or you could get hired to add a new feature to a Ruby on Rails application. That would be a lot of work. You should totally get paid at least $1,000 for that. So those are just a small handful of ideas of ways that you can make money while you're still learning to code. But I hope it gives you a sense for the fact that although for you, a lot of this will be just new opportunities to exercise your skills and learn more and really put them into practice, you are already going to be doing things that are super valuable that people are willing to pay for and dying to pay for. And I really want you to understand the value of those skills and to begin to take advantage of that aspect of what you're learning right away. So with that in mind, we are going to take a Q&A break. So I'm really excited to answer all of your questions. I see that one of our attendees was saying that she had spent a lot of time researching programs and finally decided to pull the trigger on the All Access Blueprint. And I totally, yes, Eva was saying that. And I just want to say, Eva, I'm so happy that you finally decided to pull the trigger, and we're so happy to have you. So that's awesome. Okay, so Salana is asking, right now I have a plan to learn JavaScript immediately following my HTML and CSS course, but I saw that you recommend learning Git. Should I rethink jumping right into JavaScript and learn Git first? Basically, I'm just trying to figure out where to go from here on my front end path. So the way that we do the front end developer is, I believe, I actually forget. The short answer is learning Git is a much easier thing to learn than JavaScript. So we actually have you learn Git if you do the front end developer blueprint before you learn JavaScript. I don't think it really matters. That said, like, the sooner you can learn Git, the better, honestly. Like, you could learn it like right after you learned HTML and CSS, and that would be fantastic. And you can start to build up your GitHub profile and all those things. So yeah, and I don't think, I think the point I'm trying to make is really that you're not going to delay learning JavaScript by very much, because it's going to take you like a week or less to learn Git. And the truth of the matter is, like, you use Git in conjunction with code. So like the two really go hand in hand in that regard. Sandra has a question, which is one of the career paths I see is Design Dev Unicorn. She's wondering what that is. And Kelly answered, which I also wanted to share with all of you guys. So unicorns is sort of what people in the industry call people who can both do design and development. And the reason why they're called unicorns is because it's so rare to find someone who can really do both well and really enjoys it. And that makes them very, very attractive to employers. So because basically what they can do is employers can hire one person instead of hiring two people. And obviously that's great for the employer, but it also allows you to ask for a higher salary. Carrie is saying that she retook the HTML CSS class as a refresher, and that is even better than when she took it a couple years ago. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the new version. We are always looking to update our classes and make sure that they're as high quality as we can make them. And she also says that she's not in a tech position, but I find your classes both fun and helpful in my job when I deal with developers because I understand them better. That's awesome, Carrie. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing, right? Like, for a lot of us, maybe literally coding day to day is not going to be our job, or maybe like immediately, but that doesn't mean that you can't start to reap the rewards of what you're learning right away. So that's awesome. Yes, and I would really like someone from this webinar to please design me a business card. I'm not kidding. I will totally pay someone to do that because it is embarrassing how often I go to events and people ask me for my card and I don't have one. So Araceli, I'm probably not saying that right, I'm sorry, asks, where would be some good places to find these opportunities to earn while learning to code? So that's a really good question, and that is actually something that the Code Your Way to 1K guide goes into greater detail. And we actually have a bunch of links to websites because there are definitely sort of freelance websites where you can learn. That said, in my experience, you're gonna have more luck through your network. So that basically means telling all your friends and family that you are looking to get hired. And what ends up happening is, although they may literally hire you, which is awesome, and I really encourage you to at least charge them a little bit, because I think a really common mistake that people make is that they don't feel comfortable charging, especially a family member. And then what ends up happening is that that person doesn't take the project seriously because they're not paying for it, and it just becomes kind of a hairy mess. So I really encourage you that if you have any friends or family that are looking for you to do some work for them, to charge them. But then also what ends up happening is that they tell their friends. So in my experience, like for myself personally, it wasn't that a friend hired me, but a friend of a friend hired me. And I've seen that happen with a lot of students. Like they will tell, like maybe their husband has a friend at work who needs a website built, that kind of thing. Maurice is asking, is there a list of average prices that could be charged for specific projects and tasks? And yes, that's exactly, I mean, I hope that was what I was trying to accomplish with the list that I just gave you guys, but also that is exactly what the Code Your Way to 1K guide does. Jenna asks, is WordPress in high demand? I've been focusing my energy on JavaScript. Would WordPress be better for freelancing? So I think the thing to think about is that it's not an either or. So WordPress is in high demand, absolutely, but so is JavaScript, and usually you can't do one without the other. I mean, it's possible to build WordPress sites without JavaScript, but to make, to add sliders and that kind of stuff to a website, which almost every website is going to have, you're going to need JavaScript. So I do not think that you're making the wrong choice. I think this just helps you to clarify what your next step is in terms of the cycle of profit. So I would encourage you to take your JavaScript skills, figure out a way to make some money doing that, and then use that money to reinvest in learning WordPress, and then, continue. Heather says that she loves the mood board project in Skill Crush 100. And she used the new one she made for her Facebook cover photo. That's awesome. Yeah, and again, for finding a client for anything, finding a client is not always easy, but there are definitely tactics that you can use, and they're both covered in the Code Your Way to 1K guide. And also, I mean, obviously, or maybe not so obviously, but depending on the program that you sign up for, we have an enormous amount of resources. So everyone who signs up for a Blueprint gets access to our career platform, which I can actually show you guys, which has a ton of information about how to get clients. And then if you do, for example, our All Access program, you'll actually work with a career coach who will work with you to really, make sure that you're on the right track and taking the right steps in order to, which, is hard for everyone. And that has nothing to do with, even if you were a professional developer, going out and getting your first client would be intimidating. Don't feel bad if it takes a little while. That's just, part of the process. Let's see if there are any other questions. Ashley is asking, what are the main languages involved in front end versus back end, and how easy is it to get jobs with each specialty? So front end is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's it. Backend can be a little bit more complicated because it really depends on the context. So nowadays, it can actually be JavaScript too, which is kind of crazy. It also can be PHP, it can be Ruby, it could be Python. I mean, it could be a whole lot of different languages. The most common ones are PHP, Ruby, and Python. Those are the ones that we really recommend. So yeah, and the other thing that you do on the back end is databases. So, whether that's NoSQL, MongoDB, I mean, there's a lot of different databases, structures that are used. Obviously, these are all things that we go into in a lot more detail in our programs, but that's kind of what you're seeing on the front end versus the back end. I hope that's helpful. Okay, so Cassidy has a really good question, which is, how can you demonstrate to prospective employers that even if you don't come from a traditional tech track, so like a college degree, that you have the requisite skills to perform the tasks necessary for the position? So in my experience, it is all about the portfolio. And your portfolio can consist both of like live project examples, so like web websites that you've done, and it can also exist or be comprised of code samples. So there you're showing your code. Other great things to do are to blog about technical topics, because this can really demonstrate that you're thinking about things and working hard. Okay, I just got word that I apologize. Let me throttle my bandwidth, which will make me not look as great, but hopefully you'll hear me better. Hope that helps. Okay. I got distracted. What was I talking about, Cassidy? Yeah, so it's really about putting together a portfolio and figuring out how to put together the best portfolio depending on the job that you're applying for. And this is something that's hard to give a really pat answer to apply to everyone in every situation, because obviously every situation is different, but this is exactly the kind of stuff that we would work with you if you were to enroll in SkillCrush program. So our career counselors and mentors would be able to help you. So I see that we're getting short on time, so I'm going to jump to the last few slides, but to make sure that you guys all know that we are committed to answering all of your questions. I see that my team has already been answering a lot of questions as we've been going through the webinar. If you have any questions that come up, you can always email us at hello@skillcrush.com, and we are happy to answer them and make sure that you have answers to all your most pressing questions, because that's always important. Okay. So I'm still getting worried that the quality of my video is not great, so I'd like to apologize for that. So I realize I plan to tell you guys about some really awesome students of ours, but I'm going to return for that. If you guys haven't, if you guys are thinking about a SkillCrush Blueprint, or yeah, if you're considering any of our blueprints, I would love to encourage you guys to go to Course Report, which is an independent review site that reviews our classes. And I think you'll get a really good sense of, what is great about our program, and get it, straight from the horse's mouth, which is students who've actually taken them. And you can go to coursereport.com/schools/SkillCrush to read those, if you're curious. Now, the questions that you asked at the beginning of the webinar, I want you to know that I just really want to confirm for you what is possible should you choose to learn to code. So first of all, you can have job security, which means that you can feel confident that you will have a high-paying job for life. And I think, honestly, the way that you get this is not actually literally from learning the skills. I think that you need to learn the skills in order to get this kind of confidence, but it's about learning how to learn and learning how to adapt to constantly changing conditions. So much of what I have learned working in technology is not so literally about a specific technical skill, but it's about sort of understanding this new world that we live in and learning the skill of learning and adapting, so that you can ensure that you always have the most up-to-date skills and will always be in demand. You can feel excited about going to work because you're getting paid to work that you're passionate about every single day. I would say that the thing that is most surprising to our students over and over again is how much they like the work, how much they enjoy coding. They get addicted to coding. They can't put it down, I think that's something that nobody tells you about technical work, which I'm telling you now, is that it is unbelievably creative. Your career can fit into your life, not vice versa. I would say the single most common reason that we hear from students why they are interested in technical skills is that they're looking for greater flexibility in their life. And for some, that means hour flexibility, meaning they can work when they need to work and not work when they don't need to work. Some people want location flexibility. Some people they want it all. Some people want to work part-time and they don't want to, they feel like right now their options are to have a career that they love and work full-time, or to do some boring administrative work part-time. So important, and it is something that, obviously it's never easy, but I think that when you have technical skills and you work in the technology field, your chances are much better of being able to really achieve, whatever work-life balance means to you. You can, and that's because you can literally work anywhere that has an internet connection. And you can do this in two ways. You can either work for yourself and work freelance and build your own clientele, and therefore work from anywhere, or you can apply for a remote job. And I did, remote jobs are still, minority, but it's growing. it's really, really gaining momentum, and it's gaining momentum in particular in the technical fields. So our goal is to help you find a path to a lucrative and fulfilling career in tech, where we give you because it's important to us that we deliver on the that we've made. So if you're interested in class, the way that they're structured is step by step. So when you enroll in a Blueprint, you get access to 2 classes or more, depending. If you are Access Blueprint, you'll get access to every single one of classes. You know, it's all about accountability. We really believe in accountability. You'll meet your fellow students and instructors, and we'll help make sure that you stay on track. Obviously, you know, we all struggle to stay focused on our goals and keep at it when life intervenes. It's really, we really think that it's all about human interaction, even online. So you'll get access to live video office hours. You will also meet fellow students in the process, and we'll have amazing instructors and career mentors to help you at every step along the way. So I'm just getting ahead of time, but I just want you guys to know, in particular, I want you guys all take a look at the All Access Career Blueprint. It is our most comprehensive and accelerated program. What we have really done with the program is designed a program that is customizable and will make sure that you learn all the skills that you need to land the job that you want. So we really work with you. You get a career mentor. You meet monthly with a mentor. You design a program that makes sense for you. And I would love for you guys all to take a look at that program. I know there are a couple more. Oh, and Christian. I have a joke here. Christian, she went ahead and enrolled in the All Access Blueprint. So I'm so excited that she has chosen to join us. So you guys should all check out what it is that Christian is getting yourself involved in, and see if it might not be the right fit for you too. So I think on that note, we'll wrap it up. Because I believe that we're already over time, so that's all that I have for today. But I just want to say that, you know, you should really be proud that you took this step today. You know, coming to this webinar was part of a process that you are engaging in, which I believe is going to be a life-changing process where you will learn technical skills and really take advantage of you know, all of the exciting opportunities that the future holds. I really do believe that we're at this moment in time that it is the opportunities that are available, and unfortunately, I think, you know, the biggest barrier to entry is there is a barrier to entry right now. So I'm really glad that you came and joined us on this webinar, and I got the opportunity to try to convince you that it's not as hard as it looks, and that the payoff is really big, and you should definitely give it a little bit of a try. So after this call, you're going to get an email with a replay, as well as the 31K guide, to make sure to download it, open it up, and take a look. And I would really love for you to start learning to code and start making money with your new skills as soon as possible. As always, if you have any questions, please email us at hello@skillcrush.com. And if you want to talk to a career counselor, you can go to the SkillCrush website and just click the chat button in the bottom right corner, and talk live to a career counselor about your unique situation, and they will help guide you in terms of what product maybe makes sense for you, or your program, you know, or whether right now that's not right for you, whatever it is, we're happy to discuss with you. So I sincerely hope that we'll see you at SkillCrush in a Blueprint. And otherwise, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Take care.